Breaking news, deaths from Ian are being confirmed and search and rescue operations are underway.
This after the storm unleashed catastrophic floods and life-threatening storm surge. Gloria Pazmino is live in Fort Myers, Florida.
Hurricane Ian back to being a Category 1 storm, currently hovering above the Atlantic on its destructive path here in Fort Myers. Streets were turned into rivers, and here at the Fort Myers yacht basin, you can see some of the damage. Some of these trees have come down directly on top of boats. A boat completely on an angle. You can imagine the force of that water, that wind, in order to be able to move such heavy pieces of equipment completely off the dock. Hurricane Ian continues its path towards the north as communities are devastated by its destruction.
There's really no words that I can say to tell you what I've seen. The Fort Myers Beach area, buildings, major homes and buildings completely washed away with vehicles in the water, vehicles in the bay, boats are upside down.
Tied as the fourth most powerful hurricane to hit the Sunshine State, Ian blasted ashore Wednesday, just shy of a Category 5 storm.
The amount of water that's been rising and will likely continue to rise today, even as the storm is passing, is basically a 500-year flood event.
Residents now getting their first glimpse at the scope of the damage.
Very flooded, it's ruined, completely ruined. The fridge is on the floor, the couches are turned upside down, the toilets are on the floor.
Many residents still trapped in their homes.
You kind of find yourself in a position where you're totally powerless.
With dozens of houses still underwater, search and rescues are now underway.
We currently have an aircraft in the air with the Florida National Guard actively pulling people off of roofs in Fort Myers.
And as Ian continues its destructive march across Florida, parts of the East Coast are getting pummeled.
This is my community, this is my home. It's not only for my pain, it's for everybody's pain. I'm terrified for everybody. It's not only all our trailers, it's half of Cape Coral, it's half of everywhere.
Thank you. And the destruction can be felt here in this community, the pain. But even within all of that, people are trying to come back, trying to recover. I spoke to a man just a couple of hours ago who was trying to clean up his boat here. He told me, the boat you can replace, but you can't replace me. So that gives you a sense of how people are feeling here. Power remains a big issue. 2.8 million people across the entire state of Florida are currently reporting outages. Reporting live in Fort Myers, Gloria Pazmino.
Beyond Florida, there's the D.C. response with FEMA headquartered in our nation's capital. The agency mobilizing teams for relief efforts. With more on that, we're joined by Mike Valerio. Now, Mike, President Biden has said this could be the deadliest hurricane in Florida history. So what is FEMA preparing for at this hour?
Well, mainly, Mark, it's all about the search and rescue efforts, about preservation of life. And why it makes sense for FEMA in D.C. to be so intimately involved here is because you have all of these different agencies, from the National Guard, Customs and Border Protection, you have the Coast Guard, also DHS assets. All of these different branches of government are able to help people, so it makes the most sense to coordinate them out of D.C. The president earlier today mentioning, just for example, 16 helicopters, 6 fixed-wing aircraft that have been deployed since the very early morning hours for aerial rescues, the bird's eye views to see people who are on these barrier islands who might need to be rescued, who are in desperate situation. So there's that. And then also looking ahead into Friday and this weekend, where the path of the storm is going, there are personnel here in D.C. who are monitoring what, if any, needs will be met, what, if any, needs will be required for the people in South Carolina, especially Charleston, as this storm takes aim at the city and then into North Carolina and Virginia in the days ahead.
Mike, so much has happened in such a short amount of time. Now, also today, the White House has approved a disaster declaration, starting with the families. What does the declaration do for the families involved who may have lost everything?
Yeah, you know, this is a big help, Mark. So the process is pretty overwhelming. This is a way for the federal government to come in and help. So if you're a homeowner and you don't have enough insurance, the federal government, because of this action, will pay up to $37,900 to help you rebuild your home. So we have the home component over here, and then a similar amount of money, $37,000, to help people replace personal property. The president reiterating, at FEMA headquarters this morning, that can be really, Mark, anything from a car to a lost wedding ring. So it is, you know, an understatement for personal property replacement when potentially everything is washed away from the storm surge, but it certainly is something when you're approaching, you know, that dollar figure so early in this stage of recovery for the federal government to be helping like that.
Yeah, and it's part of the critical work that's going to be underway for weeks, potentially months. Now, expanding the conversation about the disaster declaration, what does it do for the local Florida governments, the counties who are involved in the cleanup efforts?
Sure, and this is part of the same action. This is a major disaster declaration. So we have the families over in this bucket. For localities, counties, cities, municipalities, this disaster declaration approved by the president will allow 100% of the debris removal costs to be paid for by the federal government. So when you think of everything that needs to be moved, all of this debris, this disaster declaration says, hey, over the next 60 days from roughly today through the Thanksgiving holiday, for this Herculean effort, the federal government is going to pay for everything. And for federal buildings and for government structures, anything from really, Mark, a school to a firehouse, the federal government will also pay for the majority of those costs as well.
Mike Valero reporting from D.C. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Here at home, 6 volunteers from the American Red Cross Pacific region are on standby to leave for Florida as soon as it's safe to fly. One from Hawaii is already there helping some of the evacuees.
She is working as a shelter associate, so she's been working on building up what is going to be a long sheltering process.
And a Hilo family we talked to rode out the storm in Orlando.
Basically, we're just staying here. We're not going out anywhere. It's just crazy. You know, the weather, you can never predict it. So we just want to see how it goes, and hopefully we can get through this.
Now, Ian was a Category 4 storm. Category 5 hurricanes are rare in the United States overall. Only 4 have made landfall in recorded history. The Labor Day hurricane that hit the Florida Keys in 1935 killed more than 400 people. Hurricane Camille in 1969, it struck Mississippi and killed more than 250. Now, Hurricane Andrew in 1992 hit Florida and took more than 23 lives. And Hurricane Michael, which also came ashore in Florida in 2018, was blamed for 51 deaths. Stay with Hawaii News Now for continuing coverage of the storm and all the severe weather aftermath. We're going to have more coverage coming up for you in just a few minutes right here on This Is Now. And of course, keep checking your H&N digital platforms for updates.
Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has arrived on Oahu to meet the commander in charge of defueling Red Hill. This comes as families sickened by the tainted water crisis are still demanding more help. Mahealani Richardson has the story.
The protest over Red Hill goes beyond defueling of the Navy's Red Hill fuel tanks.
Real people are experiencing real symptoms.
10 months after the spills, families who were sickened after drinking fuel-contaminated water say their physical and neurological illnesses aren't going away. Ariana Wyatt fears for her daughter Indy.
I would love to tell you, Mahia, that she's doing a lot better, but that's just not the truth, because when she was poisoned, that toxicity and the latency period in a child, it can be anywhere from 5 to 10 years. So we're looking at screening for cancer.
But the Navy's medical leaders had said there was no evidence that the contamination caused long-term symptoms.
We have no evidence to suggest that there's ongoing acute exposure or symptoms related to the water distribution system.
Does the Department of Defense still believe that the exposure to the jet fuel was temporary? I can't really go into that because I don't have that information. I do know that this was a significant issue. As a father myself, I can certainly empathize. While I can't pretend to know what those affected went through, there's nothing more important to us than the health and welfare of our DoD members and their families.
93,000 water users along the Navy system couldn't drink the tap water for months until it was cleared by the state health department earlier this year. Military medical teams saw 6,000 people during the crisis. The Pentagon's press secretary says the Defense Department has established a health registry to document issues from the spill.
There were thousands of civilians who were impacted. Are they on their own?
So we'll continue to work very closely with the community.
Is there anything more that can be done to help them? Because they're very worried.
They have to be made whole. They were hurt by the Department of Defense.
I've also spoken with business people and others regarding the concerns, which are large.
They were harmed, and they have to be made whole, and they have to be taken care of from a healthcare standpoint.
Now, families continue to be told to see their doctors. As for the defense secretary, we're learning there are no scheduled plans to meet with families.
And this important tourism update to pass along. Air arrivals topped 30,000 on September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. That's the last time that happened. Now September will go out like a lamb as far as those arrivals are concerned. Under 25,000 is more typical now. We'll probably miss 800,000 arrivals for the month. Now domestic traffic still tops 2019 numbers to all 4 operating counties with a notable 50% bump to the Big Island. Now back to our severe weather coverage in regards to Ian's impact on travel. CBS News' Chris Van Cleve has been tracking that angle. He filed this report.
We are on the road from Tampa to Fort Myers. In the Tampa area, hundreds of thousands of people waking up without power. The sheriff's office here tells us there are trees down, power lines down throughout the county. There are some areas in South Hillsborough County where there is still standing water, and of course we know the situation is far worse points south of here. As for people trying to fly in and out of the Gulf Coast of Florida, most of those airports are not going to offer a lot of flights on Thursday. Look for service to begin to resume on Friday. Assessments are being made at the Tampa airport this morning and others. On the other side of Florida, in South Florida, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, those airports likely to see service resume. Key West plans to reopen its airport and begin service. Hotels, that's going to be hit and miss. In Orlando, Disney World is closed. That's unusual. Disney is encouraging people who have trips planned not to try to check in until at least Friday. And we'll tell you that the situation here is dicey. A lot of the hotels that are open are full of people who evacuated. We also understand that Airbnb and those vacation rental sites are leaving refund options up to the hosts. And if people are planning to come to South Florida, it has just gone through a major hurricane. And as for the conditions on the roads as we're driving, Interstate 75 largely open, very few cars on the road, and that's exactly what first responders want to see. The priority is trying to get power crews and emergency folks where they need to go. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, outside of Tampa, Florida.
We got some more breaking news just now coming into the H&N Digital Center. Here's a live picture. You can see the smoke going into the air there. This is coming from North Texas, west of Dallas. There is a brush fire there burning right now. I'm told this is in the Palo Pinto County area. Anyone familiar with this area would know of Possum Kingdom Lake. It's just near there. I'm told there's 0% containment on this fire, so you can see our nation right now on the mainland dealing with a number of serious, severe weather conditions out there. Again, 0 containment on this fire in North Texas, west of Dallas. We're looking at live pictures coming into our newsroom from our sister station right there. Also, another detail I can tell you, this as of just a few minutes ago, this fire is named the Lazy Fire. It is about 700 acres in size. So we'll continue to monitor this developing situation. But for now, we need to turn things over to Guy Hoggy to get an update on our conditions, which could include a little rain.
few more showers coming into windward areas tonight and tomorrow morning. So tomorrow morning might be a little bit damp, but that's going to dry up by the middle of the day. Fairly dry conditions through Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, looks like a nice front drops in with scattered showers lingering through Monday. So Sunday afternoon into Monday, look for some more showers. Your 7-day forecast does look pretty good, especially today and tomorrow. Trade winds are in control, 10 to 20 miles an hour, comfortable humidity levels, lots of sunshine, a few windward and Malka showers from tonight through tomorrow. And then Saturday should be fairly dry with pop-up showers because of those light winds. And then you saw that front's going to drop in with a few more showers between Sunday and Monday. And also on Monday, the breezy trade winds come back in. But if you're making plans for the weekend, make plans for some hot and sticky conditions.
Veteran network journalist Katie Couric recently announced her cancer diagnosis, and she's trying to use her story as a cautionary tale. Chanel Jones has more.
Former Today anchor Katie Couric has revealed that for the past several months, she's been privately battling cancer.
Thank you all for your support.
In an essay titled Why Not Me, the 65-year-old journalist says she was stunned by a stage 1 breast cancer diagnosis in June after missing her annual mammogram. I'm normally vigilant, bordering on neurotic about taking care of my health.
I want to make sure that you all don't put off your mammograms.
Katie is among nearly half of women over 40 in the U.S. who have dense breast tissue, which makes it more difficult to detect abnormalities on a mammogram and also increases your risk of breast cancer. Armed with this knowledge, her mammogram was followed by additional screening using an ultrasound. Doctors biopsied a mass. The next day, Katie received the shocking results. It's cancer. You're going to be fine, but we need to make a plan. I felt sick, and the room started to spin. What does this mean? What will the next weeks, months, even years look like? This isn't the first time cancer has touched her life. Katie has long been an advocate for cancer awareness and screenings ever since her husband Jay was diagnosed with colon cancer and died of the disease at the age of 42.
Words, of course, will never describe how devastating this loss has been.
She famously underwent an on-air colonoscopy on Today to encourage others to get checked. As a result, screenings went up by 20%, some dubbing it the Couric effect.
I have a pretty little colon.
She also lost her sister Emily to pancreatic cancer in 2001. The deaths of her loved ones prompting Katie to co-found Stand Up to Cancer.
I just realized I had to do something about this.
But with no family history of breast cancer, her own diagnosis came as a particular shock. Katie's surgeon, Dr. Lisa Newman.
More than 3/4 of the breast cancers that we diagnose occur in women that do not have any established risk factors for breast cancer.
Katie's cancer was caught early. She underwent a lumpectomy along with radiation and says she'll need to take medication for the next 5 years.
It is wonderful that Katie has gone public with her experience, and early detection of breast cancers will save millions of lives.
Now, as she's done before, Katie is determined to shine a light once again on the importance of screening for cancer. Please get your annual mammogram. I was 6 months late this time. I shudder to think what might have happened if I had put it off longer.
Everyone here on KHNL and the whole NBC family wishing Katie the very best there. And
powerful story.
Yeah, very much. All right, we got to take a look, switch gears here quite a bit and see what the internet's talking about today. And this is a very cool update. We remember that asteroid story from a few days ago. Well, new images of the aftermath of NASA's DART mission that called for a direct hit on an asteroid. Take a look at this. So NASA engineered the spacecraft to intentionally strike that asteroid in hopes they could change its trajectory or path, or
not a movie plot at all.
Yeah, it's not Armageddon. There is no Aerosmith playing here. Liv Tyler was not waiting somewhere on Earth for this all to unfold. But these new pictures from Hubble and James Webb Telescope show the scenes of before and after the crash. So take a look. The images show clouds and materials sort of bursting off the asteroid following that contact. The telescope data will continue to be studied to see if it really did work.
Yeah, and some of the things that are so fascinating about this story is just reading into it that, even just the smallest move can turn into just a huge trajectory change over time.
Totally. Yeah, you're just changing that angle ever so slightly, and then over time, it's going to go way off its original course.
Remarkable technology.
You could totally be Ben Affleck, and totally Bruce Willis. You could be on that asteroid,
just
my
get
friend.
Ditched on
you
the asteroid.
I wish you the best.
Elsewhere in the world of technology, in an effort to ramp up security measures, Google is taking a step toward protecting personal information. This week, the search engine debuted an option that allows users to exclude personal info from online search results. It's called Results About You and is built to keep pages containing emails, phone numbers, and addresses from Google searches. When selected, Google searches will then evaluate the request and see whether the content should be removed. The company is also looking at another option that sends alerts to users when new search results show personal contact information. A positive development, but also quite alarming to think that, if you were to Google yourself, what kind of personal information would come up, right?
Yeah, I know. A lot of cat pictures for me. No, just kidding. There's none. All right, real quickly, let's get to news of a very cool auction.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The James Bond vehicle landed on the auction block and, of course, went for big money. The Aston Martin DB5, used in No Time to Die, sold for $3 million. Now, this is a replica of what was sold. It was bought by an anonymous bidder by telephone. Auction house Christie's commissioned the sale, and they have other Bond memorabilia up for sale. Those big ticket items, really just amazing when you hear the price tag, but very cool to see. To be living in that universe, right?
Right. I know. Someday. All right, good news now. There's a new Marilyn Monroe biopic out there called Blonde. Kevin Frazier, our good friend, standing by with that update.
Aloha, Jonathan. Oscar buzz is already building for Blonde, thanks to Anna's ability to slip into Marilyn's life and also her iconic dresses.
Diamonds are a girl's best friend.
Talk to me a little bit about your transformation.
Every day was about 3 hours to get ready every morning. We have more than 100 wardrobe changes in the movie, and they're all so beautiful and iconic.
Anna's portrayal was so good, co-star Adrian Brody, who plays writer Arthur Miller, Marilyn's third husband, often forgot it was just a role.
She'd be going back to her trailer with her dog, and it felt like I was watching Marilyn Monroe go back to her trailer. It was really amazing.
Audiences seem to agree Blonde received the longest standing ovation at the Venice Film Festival, 14 minutes.
How do people even clap that long?
It's truly magical and incredible, and it's just more than you can imagine. I didn't know what to do with myself.
The movie also had help from Brad Pitt. His company produced the film.
It's 10 years in the making. It wasn't until we found Anna that we could get her across the finish line, and she is phenomenal in it. I mean, those are, that's a tough dress to fill.
Hey, and make sure you tune into ET tonight, because we're with Oprah and Ava DuVernay, our night out with Hollywood's Power Women. Plus, only we're with John Legend talking about new music and the new baby on the way. For Entertainment Tonight, I'm Kevin Frazier.
Thanks, Kevin, for that update. I tried to watch it. Last night came out early because of the time zone difference. I'm going to have to give it thumbs down, my friend.
The preliminary reports?
I couldn't even get through it. It's long. It's drawn out.
What is your...
I love bioflicks. Favorite genre of movies.
What is your episode threshold?
Any bioflick I love. I love historical dramas, but this is very disjointed. It's beautifully shot in some ways, but not for me. Not digging it.
Maybe another chance.
Yeah, quick picture live outside Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, under watch for Hurricane Ian, now upgraded once again. Keep watching HNN for updates on that. Keep checking those Hawaii News Now digital platforms too. Mark's back first at 4 on KHNL.
See you then.